Again, make sure that you know the difference between samples, what a good sample is and what a bad sample is. Remember, your bias is going to be that non-response, undercoverage, anything like that. So make sure that you take out all of those bias in there. Remember that your experiment should have a control. If it doesn't have a control, it's not very good. Know how to use table D. So remember that you go to whatever line they ask you for. On your test, they actually give you a line. If it says that they're labeled 2 digits, you're going to look at every single 2-digit number. So I usually just draw a vertical line between each 2-digit number, and then I'll put a check mark if it works, and then an X if it doesn't, so that way I can find my sample. Why do we random assign? Again, we random assign so that our groups are similar. So that's the biggest thing. Random assign because our groups are similar. If your sample is divided and the sample gets both treatments, so treatment A and treatment B, then that's going to be the matched pairs. So how do you know the difference between matched pairs and like blocked or anything like that? Matched pairs gets both treatments, If there are big differences between your subjects or your sample people, so maybe being male versus female will affect your outcome. You want to make sure that you block for that. So we block for anything confounding that we can take out. Don't forget what a cluster sample is, a stratified sample. Remember, a cluster is like, we talked about it being like the student section, like taken from the student section at a basketball game, where a stratified sample is taking from like freshmen and then taking from juniors and then taking from seniors and sophomores. Make sure that you know how to draw conclusions. It was that chart in your notes. Did you random assign? Did you randomly select? Okay, yes or no, and then check that chart. Know what could possibly cause an association between two things, and remember that an association does not always imply causation. So remember that. Remember the placebo effect. Again, be able to identify the population of interest, and then know the difference between your different types of samples. So remember that a convenience sample is when you just ask like the first people that come in. So like if we were doing it at school and we said, we're going to ask the first 50 people that come in off the bus, that's a convenience sample. If you give a survey, then that's going to be a voluntary response. So Mr. Baker sent out a student survey not too long ago. That would be a voluntary response. So make sure also that you know what an SRS is. So a simple random sample is when you put everybody into the hat, you take account of the full population, and then you assign them like a number or something like that, and then you pull individuals out. Let's see, I'm literally going through your tests, so I'm trying to figure this out. Don't forget when you have to use table D to find your simple random sample, you want to make sure that you label it perfectly. So if it's 2-digit numbers, your first one should probably be 0, 1, and you want to define that within your steps for selecting that sample. After that, you find a random line. So you're going to assign them numbers, and then you're going to look at a specific line in table D, and then you're going to choose 2-digit numbers if it's a 2-digit number deal, or a 3-digit number. Remember to choose without repeats, and then whichever ones that you get that fall within the range are going to be the ones that you choose. Also, be careful about the wording of questions. That will cause a bias as well. So watch that wording. Remember, if it's worded, we talked about the diapers in the landfill, that people, only 20 some percent. So people were like, that's not really a lot. It might've been less than 20, but because they saw that it wasn't a lot, that everything else was heavy, it seemed like diapers weren't a big issue. Know what an observational study is versus an experiment. Observational study is going to be where no treatment is imposed and the experiment has a treatment. Know the difference between the explanatory and the response. Remember, the explanatory is your X, the response is your Y. So the X is what you're going to change, and the Y is going to be the outcome. What are you trying to identify? Okay, so what are you doing? So your explanatory is usually your treatment. What are you doing to it? And your response is what outcome are we looking for, or what are we trying to measure? Know the different types of experimental design. And again, on the sheet that I listed for yesterday, there's all of those. So if you need to print that out and take some notes, go ahead and do that. Remember to be significantly that is not right. Significantly statistical. The difference has to be large enough to rule out chance variations. I cannot say it. Significantly. Oh my gosh. Okay. Has to be large enough to rule out chance variation. So significantly different. Okay. Know how to identify a control. Sometimes things are self-controlled where some people get the treatment, but they are, again, self-controlled. Let's see. Again, I told you a lot of times they will block for men versus women, so you need to know the difference in that. Make sure you know how to do a design. So that flow chart that we made, so you want to have your subjects first, your experimental units, and then you want to split those into whatever. So if you block them, you may want to split them into men and women. And then remember that you have to put that you randomly assign, and then underneath you need to make sure how you tell that they randomly assign. And then you need to split them into the treatment and the placebo. And then remember, you compare the one group and then compare the second group and then compare them to each other. So don't forget that. And then that's pretty much it on your test. Make sure that you are working really hard on this, and you use your resources. Try not to use each other, please. That's not helping you in the long run. So again, good luck on this test. It will be open through the end of Friday. So try to take it today. If you have any questions, mark those down, and we can talk about that during our Zoom tomorrow. All right. Good luck, guys.